We are, on our planet, passing through a change of age. Life is taking a decisive step in us and in our environment. The hour has finally come, characterized by the birth pangs inevitable in another change of state. There were the first humans who witnessed our origins. There are others who will witness the great scenes of the end. To us, in the span of a few generations, falls the honor and good fortune of coinciding with a critical transformation of the noosphere. In these confused and restless zones, in which present blends with future in a world of upheaval, we face all the unprecedented grandeur of the human phenomenon. Let's try to understand the form of consciousness that is coming to birth in the womb of the earth today. During the first phases of the modern era, we looked at the world and considered it as somehow separate from ourselves. To discover our actual place in the cosmos, we have had to gradually acquire a whole series of senses. Less than 500 years ago, we conceived of the earth as flat, and the heavens as a vast ceiling with holes poked through for the stars. Gradually, we became aware that we did not live on a flat surface, but rather on a sphere. Still, we didn't fully understand. For we imagined this earth we lived on to be the center of the universe, with everything in the heavens revolving around us. But we were in for a shock. With the coming of Galileo, Copernicus, and others, the ancient geocentric view exploded, and we discovered an unlimited cosmos. Today, we find it hard to imagine that in the 18th century, people felt perfectly at ease, thinking that they lived in a cubic space, where the stars turned around the earth and had been doing so for less than 6,000 years. Between then and now, in the short span of only about 3 centuries, what has happened? Through the invention of the telescope, our awareness of spatial immensity became possible. And so we kicked out one wall of our tight little world. And since Teilhard's time, our sense of the immensity of the world has expanded almost unimaginably. We used to think that those lights in the sky were stars. Now we know that billions of them are galaxies, each populated with thousands to trillions of stars of their own. And to balance that immensity, the infinitesimal came into view through the lens of the microscope. Since Teilhard's time, it has become possible even to see an image of an individual atom. And below even that level, there is a subatomic swarm that we can't even say conclusively whether they are particles or waves. After the walls of space, it is the floor of time that is the next to give. Through the gradual discovery of evolution, we slowly became aware of the measureless abysses of the past. Our current understanding of the age of the universe is about 13.8 billion years. And through our awareness of the future, the ceiling of time has expanded. There is no predictable limit to the future. Yet in these first stages of our awakening to the immensities of the cosmos, space and time, however vast, were experienced as two great containers, completely separate one from the other. It was only in the late 19th century, through the discovery of evolution and relativity, that the light began to dawn at last. All objects are born from their growing together from a common beginning. All things are intimately and constitutively related to each other. Related to each other in space and in time. And so space and time are organically joined together, so to speak, so as to weave together the stuff of the universe. The landscape lights up and begins to yield its secrets. We awaken to infinities upon infinities. To those who are able to use their eyes, nothing is separate from us any longer. Teilhard states that the very act by which our minds penetrate the absolute is a phenomenon of emergence. Modern cosmology describes an evolving universe. Teilhard made evolution the central organizing principle of his worldview. The consciousness of each of us is evolution looking at itself and reflecting. For we are evolution. We are not the center of the universe as we once assumed in our simplicity, but something much more wonderful. We are the arrow pointing the way toward the unification of the world in terms of life. Now, it's impossible to find oneself in a completely new environment without experiencing the terrors of a metamorphosis. When we first emerge from our dark prison, we are awed to find ourselves suddenly at the top of a tower. We're dazzled and confused. We suffer from giddiness and disorientation. The whole psychology of modern uneasiness, says Teilhard, is linked with our sudden confrontation with space-time. Human anxiety is as old as humanity itself, but it's obvious that humanity today is more uneasy, and the sense of anxiety is more widely experienced than ever before. Especially because of technology and population densities, we are literally in each other's faces, more so than at any other moment in history. A fundamental anguish of being strikes in the depths of our hearts. What threatens us? What is lacking? Space. This is the most tangible aspect. The malady of space-time manifests itself first by a feeling of futility, of being either crushed or rendered insignificant by the enormities of the cosmos. Time, sometimes having the effect of an abyss on those who are able to see it, and at other times the depressing effect of monotony, events that seem to follow one another in a circle, vague pathways that consume our energy but lead nowhere. Number, the bewildering number of the planets, stars, galaxies, or here on Earth, the effort of trying conscientiously to find our proper place among over 8 billion people, or even in a crowd. Tomorrow? But who can guarantee us a tomorrow anyway? And without the reasonable assurance that tomorrow exists, can we really go on living? The root of modern disquiet is our discovery of space-time and evolution. And what disconcerts the modern world at its very roots is not being sure that there is an outcome, a suitable outcome to that evolution. Teilhard notes, we will never take a step in a direction we know to be blocked. After the long series of transformations leading to ourselves, will evolution lead to complete obliteration? In the 70 years since Teilhard's death, one striking response to the enormity of space-time has been to try to force our world back into the dimensions of the 18th century, renouncing almost everything we've discovered, grasping for a sense of absolute certainty and predictability. But for those who have awakened to the grandeur of the universe, renouncing that knowledge would mean a deliberate closing over of all sense of a future. Teilhard puts it this way: either nature is closed to our fundamental demand for futurity, in which case reflective thought, the fruit of millions of years of effort, is stifled, stillborn in an absurd universe. Or else an opening exists, an opening of something above our individual souls. But if an opening exists, and if we are to agree to embark upon it, it must open out freely into limitless spiritual spaces in a universe to which we can entrust ourselves without hesitation. For neither alternative is there any conclusive evidence to produce. But having gone so far, what are the minimal requirements to be fulfilled before we can say that the way ahead of us is open? First, that there is for us in the future, under some form or another, not only the possibility and hope of survival on earth, but also of a superior form of existence. Secondly, to imagine, discover, and reach this higher life, we have only to walk in the direction in which the lines of evolution take on their maximum coherence. In other words, where consciousness is at its greatest. To bring us into existence, the world has, from the beginning, juggled miraculously with too many improbabilities for there to be any risk whatever in committing ourselves further and following it right to the end. If the world undertook the task in the first place, it's because it can finish it, following the same methods with which it began. We must come to realize that we carry the world's fortunes within ourselves, and that a limitless future stretches before us. In the last analysis, the best guarantee that such a thing is possible is that it appears to us to be vitally necessary. Quoting Teilhard, only in support of hope there are rational invitations to an act of faith. Do we have the right to hesitate?